Welcome to this explainer on the new 2700 UCAT reality, and more importantly, how your scores directly influence your university choices. If you're a focused learner gearing out for medical or dental school for 2026 entry, you already know the ground rules have completely changed. And honestly, it's totally valid to feel a bit stressed about these shifting goalposts. You've probably had a few sleepless nights wondering if your prep is still on track. But here is the ultimate secret. Understanding this new 2700-point reality isn't just about obsessing over a number. It's literally the master key to strategic university selection. So let's dive in and answer the biggest question on your mind right now. What actually makes a good UCAT score today? And how do universities use that exact number to either open their doors for you or close them? Okay, let's dive right into this. Historically, as you probably know, the UCAT was scored out of 3,600 across 5 cognitive sections. But starting with the 2025 sitting for 2026 entry, the total max score has dropped to 2,700. The exam now only features 3 cognitive subtests: verbal reasoning, decision-making, and quantitative reasoning, with each of those being scored from 300 to 900. Now, alongside this, you do still have the situational judgment test, but that's reported totally separately as a band. So that massive 3,600 number everyone used to chase, it has fundamentally shrunk. So why did the UCAT consortium decide to make such a massive change? Well, the biggest shift is the complete removal of the abstract reasoning section. And let's be honest, while some well-prepared candidates absolutely loved it, and sure, we might miss trying to spot those invisible patterns and random shapes, the research was pretty clear. Abstract reasoning had just become way too coachable. That high coachability was actually diluting the test's ability to assess your true innate aptitude. By ripping it out, the exam actually becomes much fairer because it strips away the huge advantage of intense external prep courses. Plus, it simplifies the whole scoring system and, as a really nice bonus, gives you slightly more time to actually show off your critical thinking in decision-making and quantitative reasoning. Now, I want you to anchor this exact number in your mind, 2,400. On this brand new 2,700 scale, a total score of around 2,400, which, if you do the math, averages out to roughly 800 per subtest, is the new baseline for a broadly competitive application across most courses. If you're hitting around that 2,400 mark, you're putting yourself in a very, very solid position. Anything above 2,500 is considered strong, and hitting above 2,600, that's truly exceptional. But keep in mind, a single national average doesn't tell the whole story. Let's break down what these numbers actually mean in the real world using some early modeling based on the new scale. If you're scoring 2,500 or higher, you're likely sitting up there in the top 10% of all candidates. That is a very strong position to be in. The top 20% will likely land somewhere between 2,300 and 2,400, which definitely keeps you competitive for a lot of those high-scoring universities. But look down at that bottom row. An average score is expected to be between 2,100 and 2,200, and I really want to stress this point. An average score is perfectly viable as long as you use the right strategy. You are absolutely not out of the race. You just need to run it smarter, and that means knowing exactly where to apply. Now, what's really interesting about this next piece of the puzzle is the Situational Judgement Test, or SJT. Like we mentioned, this doesn't add to your 2,700 total. It's a completely separate measure of your professional judgment, scored from Band 1 down to Band 4. Based on the 2025 data of over 41,000 candidates, 39% of students landed in Band 2. That's the most common outcome by far, and the great news is it's highly competitive at pretty much all UK medical and dental schools. Band 1 is achieved by about 21% of test takers, which means well over half of the entire cohort is hitting those top 2 highly desirable bands. But we do have to talk about the other end of the spectrum. Band 3, sitting at 29%, is generally accepted at most universities, though it might reduce your edge at places that heavily emphasize professional judgment, like Manchester, for instance, which explicitly excludes it. Then there's Band 4, making up about 10% of candidates. I have to deliver the harsh but completely necessary truth here. Band 4 is a major red flag. For quite a few universities, pulling a Band 4 leads to an automatic rejection, literally regardless of how incredibly high your cognitive score out of 2,700 might be. If you're in that group, it requires some very careful application strategy. So after staring at all these percentiles and bands, you're probably asking yourself right now, okay, what if I get a 2150? An average score. Are my dreams of being a doctor or a dentist ruined? Absolutely not. There is literally no such thing as a pass or fail when it comes to the UCAT. A lower score is not the end of the road. It just means you have to pivot. You see, the secret to success doesn't lie solely in those 3 hours you spend taking the exam. It lies in the smart, strategic university choices you make in the weeks after you get your results. Which brings us to the now what of our journey together, how universities actually use these scores to select you. They generally fall into three distinct camps. First up, strict cutoffs. This is brutal but simple. If their threshold is 2450 and you have 2440, your application goes no further. Done. Second, we have points-based systems. Here, your UCAT is combined with your academics. This is huge because it means a stellar GCSE record can actually rescue a lower UCAT score. And finally, some use shortlisting weight, where the UCAT is heavily relied upon to select for interviews, but it might actually matter a lot less once you're physically sitting in the interview room. Because of this incredible variation, a borderline score that gets you rejected instantly at one institution might be a slam dunk winner at another. And this brilliantly illustrates one of my favorite metaphors for this whole process. Think of your UCAT score, your SJT band, and your academic profile as a very uniquely shaped key. You cannot just force this key into any random lock. You have to find the specific university lock that was designed for your exact shape. Applying blindly to the most UCAT competitive institutions when your score is just average, that's only going to lead to a fast rejection. Strategic matching is the absolute secret to generating offers. Let's move on and see how this builds into an actual actionable playbook for you on results day. Step 1. Identify your percentile ranking. Actually, scratch that. Don't just look at the raw number out of 2,700. You need to look at exactly where you stand in the pack. Step 2. Compare that percentile to historical university cutoffs. Step 3. Evaluate your academic profile alongside your UCAT. Ask yourself, do my grades lift my score up in a points-based system? And finally, Step 4. Apply strategically. Actively avoid any universities that explicitly exclude your SJT band or where your score historically wouldn't even meet the cutoff. At the end of the day, this new 2700 scale might seem super intimidating at first glance, but the rules of the game haven't really changed, just the numbers on the scoreboard. A good UCAT score is ultimately just the one that maximizes your chances of securing an interview. It's all about context, strategy, and making highly informed choices. Remember, your UCAT score is just a single data point. It doesn't make the final decision. You do. So when you're looking at your new out of 2700 score, the real question is, which locks are you going to choose to open?